I finally read Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks. Let's have a chat about it. Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris, and today's video is the Peace and Turmoil book review. This is book 1 in the Dark Shores series by none other than Elliot Brooks, who is a booktube darling here under EB Novels. If you want to go and check her out, please do. She is absolutely delightful and one of the most humble humans on planet Earth. So I'll put her channel down below if you do want to check it out, as well as links to the book as always. Before we jump into the review today, make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Jumping right in, Peace and Turmoil was a slow burn political fantasy that gracefully built up the elements of magic, intrigue, and character relations as the story progressed. 30 years of peace have graced the lands of Abraham, a peace that will not remain for long. Tensions have started to rise amongst the nations as familial and political power plays come to light. At the heart of the world building and plot lies the characters themselves, and it is very much driven by these characters. 3 of our 4 main characters, and we'll get into the characters a little bit later, are heirs to their kingdoms, and they've come to that position via various means. The nations that we have and the characters dance around each other through the rising tensions of personal and political motivations throughout the story. I know that that sounds rather vague, but delving too deep into either the politics or the character elements of this book is going to go into spoiler territory fairly quickly. Before we jump into my own sort of personal thoughts and review, I will say that if you are someone who likes family drama, a huge cast of characters experienced through multi-POVs, if you like political intrigue, a world that is rife with magic and just a touch of whimsy to offset some of the darker elements, then Peace and Turmoil is going to be a book that you want to pick up. This book hit nearly all the marks for my personal reading tastes, and that is from the amount of thought put into the physical execution of this book itself to the internal complexities of the politics, which is then coupled masterfully with a simplicity of magic. Peace and Turmoil has been so carefully planned out at every step of the way that it was such a delightful read. Jumping into the physical book itself and the reading experience, because this book was an experience to read. Brooks has gone into a phenomenal amount of effort to make this book as engaging and magical to read as humanly possible. It goes so far beyond the words that are on the page. Going into a few examples of this, each chapter and POV is marked by the part of the map that we're in for that particular part of the story that we could be following for anywhere between 10 to 40 pages. Personally, myself, I'm not a huge map person. I don't tend to flip back to the start of the book and see where we are. I don't pay a huge amount of attention. I prefer to go into a book and experience the world building while we're traveling, and I don't tend to do a whole lot of flipping back. By having this part of the map on just the header of the chapter really put me in to where we are in the world, and I thought that was a really lovely detail. Having those headers certainly made me think more about the parts of the world I was in at the time and in relation to what particular tensions were rising in that part of the story. The book was also full of artwork, so occasionally you would get a portrait of one of the characters, or you would get a drawing of one of the fiends, and we'll go into the fiends a little bit later. These were just details that would help draw in both visual and non-visual readers into this world, and it provided grounding for us who was going into this book, which could get quite complex at times. One element of this which I loved is that some of these drawings was set to come from one of the characters as actual sketches that this character had put in their book, and it gave such an unexpected and delightful insight into a gentle part of this particular character and what she played in the story. I think that these elements were marvelous, for lack of a better term, and they really went above and beyond my expectations as a reader. Let's talk about the story itself. Brooks has done a phenomenal job of creating a complex political culture rife with character tensions, motivations, and machinations. Each leader needs to make sure that they are looking after their own by whatever means necessary, even if that means backstabbing their own family in the process. Each family followed wants to come out on top. We have power plays, pleading, and bloodshed, making this a much darker read than I initially expected. At the center of the politics does come the characters. We have a seemingly innocent Guinevere, heir to Zenith, and holder of the amulet. We've got Roland, the one she longs for but cannot have, who holds the dagger of immortality. Powers and lines which may never come together due to age-old feuds between the two families. We have the deceitful Duchess heir Natalia, who seeks the Dagger of Eve and the power of immortality for herself. A character connected closely to both families and will switch allegiances at will, whichever will give her more power. And we have Dietrich, who carries ancient elder blood and can bond with powerful fiends, also seeks the dagger to save his dying mother, and will pit these nations against each other if he has to. Another character worth mentioning that I did initially forget was Dravian. He's an inquisitor watching over a prisoner with glowing eyes, my favorite character of this book. Her name is Zodia. She has such a control of magic that she is deemed as a threat, but may be the key to saving them all. Dravian really did struggle with his gruff exterior and softening motivations towards Zodia, and I expect that Zodia will play a bigger part in the series going forward, or at least I hope so, because I absolutely loved her. While the political and the character aspects of this story may seem overly complicated, what Brooks has done quite cleverly is coupled this with elements that are easier to understand and make this book flow quite well, and that is a simple prose, an easy to understand magic system, and an element of whimsy in the fiends. The magic system centers around auroras. This is a magic that allows a user to call certain elements and abilities. Most people do carry some form of weak ability, which allows them to do very simple things like heating a household or other household chores, and a handful have the ability to call upon this magic in far more powerful ways, allowing them to fight or even save entire nations through one ability or another. This magic even makes its way into the weaponry, with those strong enough able to use coiled blades full of black aurora magic, while others only able to use a man-made or touched weapon. This concept was really easy to grasp and highly entertaining, while we were dealing with some of the more complex elements of the story. The fiends were also delightful in this book, and dangerous depending on where you were or the types that you came across, and the artwork that coupled this was just fantastic. These are animals or creatures which could be friend or foe, and were basically everywhere that you turned within this story. We had things like wolves without skin who just had muscle and sinew everywhere and looked terrifying on the page, because we did get a drawing of one of those, and we even had things like a giant dragon. These characters, or these fiends I should say, were highly visual, adding such a magical element to Peace and Turmoil. They were fun to follow, and again, I think they have a bigger part to play in the overall story, and I'm looking forward to finding that out. I personally love the way that the elements of this book have come together. I can't wait to see what Elliot Brooks has in store for us next. And like I said, for fans of character-driven, dark political fantasy that will have you wanting more, this is definitely going to be one to pick up. That was Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks. Have you read this one? Are you going to pick it up? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.